us here.
He's showing. We're not. That's your version of Canada.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead. Luke, you okay, get us started?
Yeah.
We're not holding on anything, so.
Yeah, never.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to open the council portion of the joint meeting for Thursday, with the library board, for Thursday, August 1st, 2024, at 6:34 p.m.
We call ours now?
Yeah.
Okay. Call the regular meeting of the Library Advisory Board to order at 6:34 as well. And our first item of business is to approve minutes from our June 6th regular meeting. Hope we've had an opportunity to kind of glance over those. Any discussion or added? Next item is public comments to the advisory board. Seeing none.
There were no email comments.
No email comments, okay. Now, item 3 is board member reports. Jan, Ms. Gable?
I mean, I have a big report.
That's
We'll do the
I don't know
survey.
when it's-
That'll be under the discussion.
None, seeing none. All right. Mr. Velasquez, library report.
So we just completed our summer reading club program for the summer yesterday. I will have a big formal presentation for the council on our next second council meeting. We'll present this. Just to give you some general information, we had 92 programs over the summer. A total of 2,553 attendees to all those programs. And then the actual formal library reading club participants in that one, which is up from previous years of 129 and 23 and 196 and 22. So people we've drawn Rampart Annual, which is a Thursday, to support the library, buying like bicycles and stuff for our summer reading club. Think like that. Anything else you can think of?
No, August is the program break between summer and fall. So our calendar is lighter than it has been for the past 2 months. But I know youth services is one we appreciate the break. And then the fall programs will start sometime in September, around September 1st is typically when those start. And all of that will be on our socials, and we'll have the flyers and everything as that time approaches.
And we do, because of the technology issues we've had in the past, we have a lot of services unavailable. For the most part, everything's back online. Our faxing services back online. We still can't print Wi-Fi, and credit cards are still down, but that's all based on stuff at IT. So we're
Looking for discussion.
Before I got here, I'm amazed that I was to have everybody. I just talk about it, and we had we had 4 library advisory board members that volunteered. the goal was to have, over the course of 4 to 6 weeks, at least one volunteer per day working 2 hours at the table, handing out surveys. And we mostly accomplished that. I think we had 6 committed volunteers, 4 from the library advisory board, 2 from the Friends of the Library, and our online portion, we had a span, and even I had things that, and there sent a at the end a plane ticket and putting into the computer all this data that we have, my expectations, and it exceeded my expectations that it would exceed my expectations. I'm sure nobody understands what that's like. So I started as early as 11 a.m. Not as early as that. The right listed out. I've already organized and worked. We had 96 online surveys that came back to us. We had about caster and answers. That quickly became untenable because in 2 hours I got 8 surveys done, and our goal was to get 300. So I changed. I just handed out a clipboard. Here you go. The next week, and I know some volunteers got. And I know some volunteers got quite a bit less, but it seemed to depend on the hours that they were there. We tried to vary the hours. We tried to come in the morning, right at opening, right at closing, in the middle of the day, around the program. Not around the programs. I would often go, hey, no, I don't have time, I'm volunteering. I'm like, great, you're volunteering. Or, I've already taken it twice. I'm like, great, you're volunteering. Or, I've already taken it twice. I got that once. I was like, no! You're not supposed to take this twice. And the people that I did actually get a chance to talk to were always very interesting. I talked to a man who was very intimidating, like the younger, like teens that would walk by, and I would think they are not going to care. And my second thought was, I want their opinion, and a survey for me, and they actually did, and I was very pleased. Yeah, I learned a lot about our citizens here in Duncanville, and about the people, that I honestly had no idea we were so useful, which was encouraging. Michael, do you have any?
No, I
experience?
was typically here midday, and a lot of activity during that 2 hour period, usually like 11 to 1 or 12 to 2. Highly used, but primarily I think the summer traffic was young moms with to a little number of them. Usually they get spoiled with use of the.
And I do want to say something in particular about one of our volunteers. Jan made it out to the July 4th event, and I think you spent four or 5 hours in the
sunscreen.
Can you tell me how many surveys you?
Okay, at least it was over 20 anyway,
Yeah.
at least. But
Yeah.
it was wonderful meeting people with I think one lady was a retired journalist, and 3 of my students showed up I'd never seen in a while, about at least 10 years, so we all hugged and it was just wonderful. And earlier when I was inside, there was one young gentleman, he had a retro vision hat. I said, "Oh, I was what?" I said, "Yes, without the vision, the Bible verse, without a vision, the people perish." So, and he wrote down his name, and then there was a strange lady wrote down her name. So I was just amazed, I had my little spiel going like, okay, if you don't know, tell us, we don't know. So, that was my little slogan. So
That's good. Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Sean, I'd like to, on behalf of the council, and I'll let the others speak, and I know they will. Your effort is super.
She's watching the kids, so I can be here. She's pretty much amazing.
Again, she's still helping.
Yeah.
But, I can't wait to see.
So the event, which I thought was important to, we had these grandiose ideas that we would go knocking on doors, and I like but I never found the time to, like, the 2 hours that I gave during the week was like, oh, that's all I knew, but I was glad that we had at least one person, at least one time, go out into the community to find people that don't necessarily use the library, who might still have opinions about the library. Maybe they don't use the library because of such and such reason,
That's what I told him about interlibrary loan. I said, yeah, just come up, sign up for tech share.
Yeah. That was good. One of our volunteers, that volunteers there every Thursday.
I hope, we can be inspired by this, because this was a lot of work. Like, it was just work, and the board did, and that Shannon did, and just in the absence sometimes of resources, and we don't have necessarily the means to do some of these things, and sometimes you can compensate for that with just work, just hard work, and so, like Shannon said, what I encountered, I would say 9 out of 10 people, if you told them, hey, this is an opportunity for us to improve our library, and they say, oh yeah, I'll definitely want to do that. And I mean, even people who seem like they're in a hurry, if somebody approaches them with a clipboard and pen, they start to circumvent you, right? But once they realize, oh, there's a survey to help possibly improve the library, that they would sit down and they would fill it out. Again, most people were very, very happy to do. What this provides is data appreciate the library, but work that she did not face. And her mom sees results, and I think it was like 11 o'clock when I when I got there. So, you know, thank you very much, you know, to all of you, you know, Mike and Jan, I saw in one of the surveys that, in the additional comments is, the staff member was very friendly, and they put your name on there specifically. And so, you know, just the interaction as well with, because, you know, if you've got, you know, a bad attitude, you're not approachable, you know, that could be a reason for somebody to not want to do it. And I think a lot of people did it because of, you know, the people.
You put me with people and folks, I forget to be shy.
So, but yeah, so I'm very excited to see, you know, I think you said we just have raw data tonight.
Yeah.
But at some point, be able to look through the kind of organized data and see.
Without giving away the ending of the story, we're going to get this information. What was your biggest takeaway in some of the responses or some of the feelings you got about how people thought of the library?
Comments about the library, which was always encouraging. And clean library is clean and quiet. And clean library is clean and quiet. And then just in general, like kind of overall, how the library connects with children. I mean, there were some people that were pretty negative about the children. I mean, there were some people that were pretty negative about the children, like the daycare or a library, or it's too noisy for me to work here. And then there were other people who were positive, but kind of said similar things, like, I like children's area, but I wish that it was more separated so that our kids could be kids and not bother people. So my main impression, if I just had to tell you one, was people want some attention paid to the children's area, some kind of renovation, especially some kind of separation, and some extra things for the kids so they enjoy it even more, and so their noise doesn't bother the rest of the library. So the way that I have organized this, and I will tell you guys, Jeremy translated the Spanish surveys for me. There were only 4 Spanish surveys that were turned in. He translated the answers, and I have not actually added that data into the main spreadsheet. So I gave, there's an addendum in here that is just the results of the Spanish survey, but those of course need to be added into the English survey and mixed in so that we don't, the only reason that the Spanish survey results right now are separate from the English survey results are that I didn't have time to add all that in.
There's a lot of this.
There's a lot.
Keep passing until it gets to you.
So there were 13 total questions.
Julio's still printing.
I believe reflects kind of the accuracy is when you look at the 34, 35, and 44, and like that's consistent with our census right now, with the census data. And that reflects, you know, just the kind of the average age in the city of Duncanville right now, so.
So we got a good cross-section of our people, maybe.
And when I was passing out a survey, I was trying, I said, okay, this one's, I was trying to get a good mix.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I was trying to get a good mix.
What really helped was that the computer shut down for the next booth, and I got the overflow. I was pleased.
So given the period of time when this happened, so we wouldn't be surprised that a lot of people may have commented on, hey, how come computers are down? Right? And those services. Put an asterisk next to it.
Our fix scanner just came
because they ask people questions. You guys were all,
Little under 10% nationality, I kind of understand because of our border and the population, but you get a sense of the cleanliness and the,
location, yeah, I mean, some of it is location. You know, that would have been a good question to include because we have the opposite question on the survey. It's if you use other libraries, why do you use them? So we have the opposite. Visit Duncanville other than location. Like, are there other reasons? You know, there were a few people that said they liked our book selection.
Physical collection for folks to check out, really an ongoing partnership.
Yeah.
So that might bring some people in.
Try, I find a book, I buy it, and I get donated to Duncanville. So it's, I'm usually doing my part.
That's nice.
I find a book, I buy it, and I get donated to Duncanville. So it's, I'm usually.
So, yeah, I might have lied about, are you, 95 no, are you, 95 no's and 313 yeses.
So a fourth.
So forth, yeah, yeah.
A fourth of them were not residents.
A fourth of the people who answered the survey, approximately a fourth. Answered the survey, approximately a fourth.
And of course, we get lots of Dallas residents,
Yeah.
Yeah.
obvious residents.
and one guy from Singapore.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and the Colorado one, we weren't sure if that was like the town they grew up in. There were a few that they weren't answering the questions correctly, and you could tell, and you're like, should we tabulate the data when you can tell they're confused? I don't know, you know? Are you a Duncanville resident? Yes. Where are you from? Denver, Colorado. Denver, Colorado. You're a Duncanville resident.
There was one of the online surveys, reading it, I was like, have they not come since we have the new library? Like, are they thinking of one of, the
Yeah.
library? That's,
I know. Yeah.
because they were scared, like, drab, dark, and small, and I'm like, I think they might be thinking of the other library.
Yeah. We had a lot to laugh about actually while we were doing these. And there were some handwriting, that we lines in the text where, I don't know what they said, was it paleontology or was it pathology or? You notice any color coding, that's my attempt to start tabulating the open-ended questions or the other.
We do that, and we do have some that are texture. Some that are texture borrowers, they can check out 5 items at a time for free. And we could pull stats on that. It might be something now that we have, because some of that borrower type can only ship out with us instead of the texture type where it's like, oh, this is one, but we can probably pull that out.
And also, I want to comment on something else that Hannah said, because it's true, is because I know a couple of people, they said, oh yeah, I use the Cedar Hill Library as well. Why is that? They said, because y'all have a better selection of books. And it's interesting, when you go to the Cedar Hill Library, I mean, it's a big new library, right? If you've seen their municipal center, it's kind of comparable to what their library is. So, I mean, compared to ours, ours is dwarfed by the municipal center. But they have this big, nice new library, and you're looking around and there's a little section over here where the books are. And so the library, and I understand what their intent was, and it's a nice library, but but we still have people who come here because we're more of a library at this point.
Yeah.
On number 10, were these the answers that were given for them to respond to? So there's no real fill-in or write-in options on here.
Correct.
So we need to do everything all at once. It was an overwhelming winner.
I asked people to limit their response to just 3, and some of them checked every single one. And I just thought, I'm gonna put in the spreadsheet what they chose. Although some of them would number it like in priority, and if they numbered priorities 1 through 7, I only took their top priorities, I took 2 and 3. But as I'm going through these surveys, it feels really unfair because some people follow the rules and some people don't. And so in a way, it's like, if I were to do this over, I would not limit anybody's response to a certain number because some people follow that rule, some people don't. And I want everybody to have the voice they want to have. So people like me who are a rule follower, and it's not 408, I'm sorry, it's 300 something. I haven't gone through all the paper surveys and captured all the floating comments because I didn't have time. So there may be other things that were written on pages that didn't have like a spot for comments, but they wanted you to know something about it.
On question number 11, where we see libraries that they use, including the Dallas Library. In this area, we're talking mainly the library that's on Mountain Creek Parkway.
A lot of people would name the Dallas Library, and it was usually Mountain Creek is a Dallas Library, right?
Mountain Creek, yeah.
Yeah. And then is there, I'm not familiar with Dallas, is there a library in the woods?
That was Mountain Creek.
That's also Mountain Creek?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because I saw that sometimes too.
Old Wisdom Branch is, I think, not that much farther, but it's the other direction. Okay. We're like right about in the middle.
Okay.
The risk of embarrassing myself, I'm looking at one of these and I see answers to questions and I see manga.
Right.
That's anime.
Anime, yeah.
Gotta keep going.
They're in their books.
It's not a fruit.
It's a graphic novel.
There you go, that's what I was.
I believe they are Japanese, originally Japanese, so you actually open the book the wrong way. And you read the book the wrong way. And it's a graphic novel that is translated from Japanese to English, so it looks like you're reading anime, but you're reading backwards.
Anime.
Oh, that's the art that.
Anime is the video, manga is the.
Sure.
If
If
you see
know better than I
spiky
do.
hair,
I've never
it's
read a manga novel.
It's
I have some translations into it, and they come to payment something for this year, and they work, and like, they actually go and get glue, contacts, and makeup that's upside down. And I'm like, they're into anime, I'm like, okay.
That's why they come to Duncanville. See? Because we like books too.
Mayor, well,
Yes, sir.
you know, so I guess for me, you know, definitely need some time to go through this, and my understanding is that we'll get a more refined version of this at some point.
I don't know how much more refined. I mean, like, there are things there are ideas I have for making this more presentable and look better, but it may not be professional.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things is I'd like to order everything from most to like greatest to least, right? At least. Bar graphs would be nice. Not sure if I can get that done, but yes, a little bit more refined.
Okay. So there might be another
Yes.
to follow. Here, after the library board, you know, really got a chance to look over this, and I mean, as an advisory recommendation, so I'd be very interested in hearing from the board after you've had an opportunity, the recommendations that you might make to us after going over through this data.
We have more.
I think also their interests, or what they express as interests, would help them comply with the library staff as far as book selections and things such as that, or other resource selections. Yeah.
I mean, has this ever been done with the library?
Survey?
Yes.
We've done other surveys.
At
yes.
this thorough?
We've never had one with, this is like orders of magnitude more responses than we got when staff tried to do surveys. But we have done surveys in the past.
You've never had to bring one out of state help?
We never were able to have somebody in person, like, asking people to fill out a survey. It was usually just putting it out online or something like that, and we got less than 100 responses. But there were two different occasions in the past where I remember we did surveys.
And you have that old, like, the results of those surveys?
That would be somewhere. We could find them.
Do you know what years they were done?
So we did one survey when we did our library comprehensive plan back in 2016, but I want to say we did one a couple of years after that, before COVID. What year?
So, Ms. Olson, since you mentioned the library master plan
Yes.
from 2016,
Uh-huh.
can you tell us a little bit about that process, give us a history, a little bit about the process? And then, is it something that the library is looking to do?
Yes. So part of the on file basically, so in 2016, there was a process done that included the library board, I think the Friends and library staff, there were focus groups, and so it was pretty in-depth input that they got from the focus group, which was citizens and I think some board members. I was not part of it myself, our previous director spearheaded that. I wasn't in the room or anything like that, and so that is what our current we could do, like, I think, coffee shop. Yeah, and then library staff will spearhead that. But library board input from citizens and all this, probably stuff from the survey could get incorporated into that new master plan.
Yeah, this will be with information to incorporate into that, so.
Some of what I anticipated I would see here, of course, I haven't looked at all of this, is as part of the survey, is what are the library users, what are their thoughts about physical improvement to the library? So where does that play into your future to?
Well, we just did, as you know, we're in the process of doing the facility survey that we're doing right now. across the city. So as part of that process, we did on the library side, we put in within the existing, but beyond that, it was a little, you might remember this or not, it was intended to be all rec center, no library, so the library part was actually an added retrofit. But because of that, they never actually asked the library staff. For the most part, a lot of the stuff you'll find in the survey people are asking are things we'd like to see reflected in what that process goes through.
It get a little bit off focus, city manager, but when these assessments are done, and let's take the library as an example, we'll revisit, will we do nothing but focus on those suggestions about the library to consider how we might be able to agree to go on with some of those improvements?
Yeah, so the company that we hired to do the update, they'll be finishing that up this month, now that we're in August. And so then we'll get that information. So, you know, we're still kind of talking out how we're gonna present that. I'd like to get that information to you guys ahead of time so you can review the information and then come back collectively and have discussion about it so you can go through it and everything. But we'll have that document that'll be for all city facilities.
Thank you.
And I also plan on, beyond this conversation today, when I do my next quarterly report, I'll consolidate a lot of this information and data that we're talking about. I might cherry pick some stuff out just to make it a little more crystal clear. A process at one time, but in that quarterly report, I'll revisit some of this stuff and in a little more concisely or slightly different format, just so it's a little more easy to pick and choose going through what those results are, consolidating just the top things. So.
Well, thank you all so much.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
what's the biggest challenges for libraries
That's
besides space? Okay.
Money, community support, staffing, yeah. That's probably one of the biggest things. The two biggest things are space and staffing, because a lot of the issues we have for people asking for things, we don't have enough staff to do it. Expansion of hours, more programming, things like that. It usually comes down to space and staffing on there. It's one of the big things too. You know, we did a big survey when we changed the library hours a few years back. We did an actual consolidated data plunge into all of our systems that we utilize to see tracking visits and things like that in order to find what new hours should be in relation to number of people visiting, number of people using computers, number of people using Wi-Fi, number of people visiting programs, number of people checking out materials, and that's how we adjusted our hours to reflect that as well. Wednesday nights we're open.
People want to read or watch or whatnot. Some of the technology stuff, it kind of varies a lot based on where you are. Around here, the technology stuff, a lot of what is, people like the ebooks and audiobooks that we do offer through Overdrive, but a lot of what people are looking for is, oh, I need to use the computer and print, I need to fax something, and that's more where we're at. So it's like good to try and stay ahead, but we're also aware of like, that's kind of what people are.
I mean, biggest things for us in anticipating, as I was saying, the usage, like one of our biggest things here is job seekers, because pretty much everything you have to apply online to work. And a lot of people who are applying for jobs don't have email addresses, have never created a resume or had to. So we have to physically help them, and we don't have the time for the staffing to do that. So that's another challenge we come. So we offer resources and as much help as we can, but also it's dependent on the technology that's available to us, the stuff that they have knowledgeable, which is why we do computer classes and things like that to help with these kind of folks. And also look at the community to provide help through volunteers and whatnot to help us with those kind of situations. As you said, you know, a lot of times you do have to prognosticate 5-10 years out in the future what technologies are on board, what things are happening that may affect us. There's no guarantee they will. And sometimes we invest, that's the difficulty, because sometimes we think we want to invest in certain things that don't pay off, and so that's a waste, and we miss out on certain other things which would be more. We see them asking for us, doing these kinds of surveys to kind of see what they're looking for, and then anticipating how we can utilize that information to best serve them, while also trying to figure out what is the next thing coming up, which is not always clear. I just came back from our annual ALA conference in June, July, And a lot of those programs in there, we're talking about anticipating what are the coming trends for the next 5, 10 years. And
So
again,
you really build to the future, is what you're doing. So if a lot of these pieces that people are giving back, and what they'd like to see change in the library, and your own staff agrees to those changes, and then we can figure out how we can fund it, you're actually having to design it in anticipation of the changes that are gonna happen over the next 5 to 10 years.
yeah, we have to future-proof it.
I mean, we can look at some of the data of what has happened, we can kind of use that to help try and decide what direction we're going on things, but it's never foolproof. It's
Well-
always.
A big column that was the old library that had to squeeze by.
Oh, yeah, I loved that as a kid.
It was, it didn't meet ADA, by the way. And it was probably about a 4-foot diameter concrete column in the middle of the book.
I do remember that.
Well, that's one thing, even if you look at the new Cedar Hill Library, like, again, when that started to when it was completed, there's a lot of stuff that they were anticipating that has changed or whatnot. But at the last time I visited, they were already saying, oh no, we already have to add these things which we didn't anticipate because patrons are asking us of it, even though until it's an action that's physically happening, you don't really know what your needs are going to actually be. And again, it's all reflective of what the community is coming in to use and utilize and not using or utilizing and then asking for. Because again, you're gonna have people who are looking at Cedar and saying, oh, why can't we do this here? It's like, well, you know, staffing, money, space is a big issue, things like that. But even then, there are things that we can do or we have done that may not be available at other places too, which is why we always say it's part of that larger collaboration.
Staffing, money, and space, so that sounds familiar. Yeah, ask every department in the city of Duncanville, probably get the pretty same thing.
Yeah, and pretty much. I mean, I think that's inevitable.
And Mayor, I'll go ahead and just say again, I look forward to hearing from the board, just your, feedback that you might be able to provide results of this. And thank you again, because it's so much work, so thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything else? All right, great job.
Yes.
Great job. This is an awesome meeting. I remind you the DCTC fed us, but,
Mayor, also no eating in the library.
so at this point, then, if we're all in agreement, I'm going to close
Mayor.
the meeting. One more question.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I was anticipating, because we didn't officially move to the next item on the agenda, so I was anticipating this. I know we've been having that, but we didn't officially go there, so I did have another question.
Open discussion.
Right ahead.
So I was just curious, so recently, a recommendation was made to change the name of the library.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to get some feedback from the board about your thoughts about that and, just kind of, where the recommendation came from and your thought. And from the board.
Well, I'm familiar with it, and I certainly know Ann and certainly know Mayor Green. I think that that would be placing a name of a family or a couple at that, both names, was something that people could do. And of course, they'd have to be educating the newer residents of the area as to who the Greens were or are. But I think we discussed at the last meeting that we were supportive of that name.
Were there other names that were considered?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
My only basic comment, and this is the thing true of any library, is that regardless of the name we change it to, it's always going to be the
Duncanville Library.
People are never going to refer to it as the Green Library, because that's true of.
Unless there were several branches.
Right, yeah. Again, if you were like Dallas Public, we have multiple, so you would identify it as a specific type of library.
We experienced the same thing with the amphitheater and with the senior center both.
Yeah.
The whole folks will refer to it as Hopkins, and everybody else refers to it as, senior center. So that's undoubtedly.
Yeah, I think, I don't think.
Public feedback, any of you, part of the board?
I've heard from, I think, 2 people that were aware of it. I didn't go out and ask, but they thought it was an appropriate decision to be made.
Well, I'm sure with the, as we advance with that discussion, that we'll receive more input and feedback, so.
Was there a recommendation from a member of the board for that?
As to
No,
the naming,
name, no.
there was just a discussion, because it was just an open discussion on that. So I don't.
No, nobody on the board made that recommendation?
Oh, for the naming?
Yeah.
No, it didn't come from the board. It was not a
And
board.
I'm
it was
not
a
sure.
board.
And I'll say,
I guess I'm trying to figure out where it came from.
I'm the one that did it.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no,
Okay. I didn't. Oh,
Okay.
and stuff, and
Yeah, and then this, and then the. it
And the
was
city
brought-
manager and I had a discussion about it, and he said, you want me to put your name on it? I said, doesn't matter. He brought it up because, he served the city for a number of years, his family, his wife, he was even a librarian in college. You know, he worked for the library in college. His wife was a teacher, some of his kids have been in education, some of them help with the Education Foundation currently and stuff, and he just served the city well.
And then I guess, considering the possible discussions about long-term plans regarding the library, whether some town down the line consider or renovating this one, might it be the recommendation from the board to wait for any name changes until after we decide on what the future of the library might be?
That could be a good idea.
Yeah.
I think my only problem with renaming the library is I don't know enough about it to make an informed decision. I don't know this man, and I assume that the reason for naming him is to honor him, right? It's merely to honor him. Not merely, but I think it would be a great honor to have your name on the library. So I guess maybe my only objection would be, are there other names that, if we're considering renaming the library, are there other names that we should consider? And if we are going to maybe in the 10-year plan, gonna have some kind of major renovation or build a new library, it would make sense to do the naming at the same time, like you were kind of implying.
Or even another thing, rooms, if that's the case, because
yeah.
I'm sure there are a few people that have lived here, that will live here, and so if that's an option,
And we have done that before, but we have people who've donated, who we've named, we have no idea who these people were, because.
When the library was built, some rooms were dedicated in honor of people, and I honestly don't know who many of them are.
So the name's still there?
The names are there, yeah.
Yeah.
So could we rename the rooms? Would that be a bad idea?
I mean, we did,
That's like total.
we have once had somebody come in and be like, what happened to the name on this, why, I don't know.
What would be neat is to, where you said to rename them, but save those names and maybe do some kind of plaque. where all
Right,
the
we did talk about that, because when we were doing more studies on just the practicalities of the spaces in the library, if we were to remove those plaques from the rooms and rename them as a functional room, have a section where we just have those plaques, or have a larger plaque that said, thank you to these families for their donations to the library, so it's not a specific room, it's just a general thank you. Because we were renaming a study room just as a study room, or not as XYZ study room or the computer room. Which again would be something, if we do renovations, would be part of that process. So again, that would be another option is, this renovation dedicated in memory of Mrs. Green and Mayor Green or something like that would be the other
So I
possible.
want to remind everyone that at this point, we just realized that we don't have a policy for renaming, so we've gone through and we got some samples. One of them was from our city attorney for the city he represents. there were other recommendations that were made. So we're still a ways off from establishing that policy that will talk about some of the things we're talking about, in terms of, you know, when a building is remodeled or something happens with the building to change it, how does the name stay with it, or does it stay with it? So all those things will have to be worked out, and the council will have to approve the final policy so that we can then go through that process, design or defining that policy so that we can vet it, vote on it, and then it will happen if it's gonna happen. So we've still got a long ways to go on that. So maybe it can be in conjunction with the renovations, although it's way more money situation is, we got so much to do, that may be a while before we actually get to library improvement, so.
Well, that, you know, Mayor, so it's not a long ways off.
Well,
I know the decision, you know, what we're talking about for the library may be ways off, but you know, that's on our agenda for Tuesday.
well, but that discussion, when we go into it, and I've read the depth of the agenda item, we still haven't, are we gonna be presented something that, and I'm getting off subject here, I apologize, we're gonna get presented something that's already packaged for us, or is there gonna be time to understand it before we vote on a final policy?
Well, we did the briefing on it already, right? And so this was the ordinance from the last conversation that the city attorney drafted out. So that's for you to consider. I mean, you can obviously table it, you can pursue it, whatever.
Well, from what you've read, did it include, you had some sample policies from other cities.
Yeah.
From what you've read about this agenda, have you know whether or not?
Well, I don't want to talk about anything that's on our agenda Tuesday, but Mayor, I guess I'm just saying that, you know, that, you know, I just wanted to hear from the board, you know, just your thoughts on, you know, if this gets passed on, you know, that we can renaming, you know, is your recommendation that we do wait until after work, you know, renovations or even a new library is built before we think about changing the name? Because I do believe in, you know, honoring, you know, people that make significant contributions, no doubt about that. But as far as just making sure that, you know, there's a public process that's in place.
To be done in conjunction with something major, so to speak, in regard to the library.
Yeah.
You know, kind of a reopening, so to speak.
And I think that'd be a great time to have that kind of discussion.
And I do want to say this because I think it's important. I'd rather it not be a memorial library.
Well, that's, okay. With this mayor's agent.
Okay. Any other discussion from council?
Thank you. And I like this interaction with, you know, we got to meet the EDC earlier, or the CEDC earlier this week, and so I really appreciate this opportunity to engage with, you know, people that we usually just see in
I'll close
interviews.
out our part of the meeting by telling you something I admitted to Chiquita. I was accused by a friend, high school friend's mother of not returning the work that she was kind enough to take out from me, and I denied it, and I said, I think I gave it back, and we moved it to the house, and now I had put some books in, and I had some more, and I'm thinking, I remember that, and I opened it up, and it says, sure enough, Santa Ana Library, 1969.
Mayor,
I don't know if there's a statute of limitations.
You can fund the renovation when you pay on
Mayor,
later.
I do have one other comment.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you for serving on the board faithfully. I know Jan's been a strong, thank you for doing that. But if you have friends, something like that, because, you know.
When is the deadline?
City secretary.
I will say, just to be fully honest with you, I have considered and reconsidered and considered, my term is ending. And I have.
And I was very disappointed.
I've been back and forth about getting back on, but other things in my life are getting weightier, and I will not be on the board after my term ends right now. So just to be honest, while you guys are here and face to face, because I wouldn't want to meet you in the street 5 months from now and you go, you left as soon as you did the survey. Yes, I did. I'm telling you right now. I'm sorry, but I can't.
Thank you for your time.
Because it started off a little bit rough for you when you,
It's been kind of rough at points,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. And so I realized that.
But I can tell
And
you-
Mr. Kreisberg, how long have you,
I think I have another year.
okay.
I've been, what, 4 years?
Yeah.
5, I don't know. Since I retired from my other job.
Right, and Jan had to take a time.
Yeah, I've already put my application in.
Okay.
Jan's a stalwart, so.
Right, right.
But I can guarantee you, like the work Rick Shanna's done with the survey has been invaluable, so that will carry on for quite a while, because we've talked about spinning out from this major survey, picking out bits and pieces and doing further studies on improvements and things in relation to that, because it's gonna be valuable information to carry us, like I said, in strategic plans and things like that.
I'm sorry to continue the meeting, but on that note, there was a place on the survey for contact information, and some people were really enthusiastic about either volunteering at the library or being on the board. There were people who were like, put me on the board. So, I'm not sure how we'll like go about that. I'll probably just
Yeah,
give
and
you
I
that
can,
information and you
I
can
can
contact those
forward-
people
I
and say,
can
we
forward-
need you on the board, you wanna be on the board?
right,
Yes,
yeah, I can try to get
or friends of the library, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping that young gentleman with the vision hat, you know, put down his name, I'm hoping he's gonna be a team volunteer or something.
Yeah. That's good.
All right, any other business? Any other comments, questions? I'm going to close the city council session for this evening at 7:42 p.m.
Do we have?
And the advisory board, closing of our regular meeting also at 7:42.